In this lesson, we return to the second of the 4 basic types of meditation, observation. Earlier in this course, we discussed the practice of Sakshi bhava, in which you observe or witness the activities of your mind, instead of trying to restrain them. The goal of Sakshi bhava is to become a detached observer of all the thoughts, emotions, and sensations in your mind, all your vrittis. In this lesson, we'll shift our perspective away from those vrittis and instead consider the awareful witness who observes them. In the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali says, Chitta vrittayas, the activities of your mind, your vrittis, sadajñataha, they are always known, always observed, always witnessed. Purushasya, by the conscious being, by you. We'll see the rest of the sutra in a few moments. Your essential nature, as we discussed before, is the awareness or consciousness by which all of the activities of your mind are known. That means all your thoughts, emotions, and sensations are illumined, as it were, by consciousness, by the light of awareness, illumined like objects seen by the light of the sun. A question often arises here. If consciousness reveals or makes known all the activities of your mind, how can that consciousness itself be known? Of course, that's a bit like asking, how can the sun shine on itself? It's a tricky question, but it's skillfully answered in the Kena Upanishad. Ahur, they say, the rishis say, Yena manomatam, the consciousness that illumines your mind, Yan manasa na manute, it cannot itself be an object of thought. Consciousness reveals all your vrittis, making them known to you. But consciousness can't be known like anything else because it's not a vritti. Consciousness is not a knowable object. It's the knower, the observer, the witness. Consciousness is your essential nature. Let's return to the sutra now. That consciousness, tat prabhoho, is the master of all your vrittis. Consciousness is separate and independent from your thoughts, emotions, and sensations. As their master, so to speak, it's utterly unaffected by them. That means everything you experience affects your mind, but not your consciousness. If you ask how your consciousness can possibly remain unaffected by all that, Patanjali answers, aparinamitvat, because your consciousness is immutable. It's unchanging, and that which is unchanging can't be affected by anything whatsoever. Let me explain. You can observe your mind's constantly changing flow of thoughts, emotions, and sensations only because your consciousness is unchanging. If your consciousness happened to change along with all those vrittis, you couldn't accurately observe their changing flow. To understand this better, imagine driving your car at 40 miles an hour and looking over at the car in the next lane, driven by a woman who's drinking coffee on her way to work. Even though she's drinking coffee at 40 miles an hour, she'd look perfectly stationary to you. To accurately see her drink coffee at 40 miles an hour, you'd have to be a motionless observer. standing still on the roadside. In the same way, only unchanging consciousness can accurately observe your changing thoughts, emotions, and sensations. Your consciousness is a perfectly steady, unwavering light of awareness that illumines or reveals the ever-changing activities of your mind. This amazing assertion about the nature of your consciousness might seem surprising at first. Most people consider their consciousness to be something quite ordinary, because it's always there. It's present in each and every experience, so it's easy to take for granted. Yet, the consciousness you might consider ordinary was discovered to be absolutely extraordinary by the ancient rishis. Patanjali himself points to its extraordinary nature by saying that consciousness is immutable, unchanging, and therefore it can't be affected by anything whatsoever. To recognize the fact that your consciousness is unchanging is a powerful insight with many profound implications. For example, to begin or end, to start or stop, to be born or to die, all these are changes. If your consciousness is unchanging, it can't start or stop, so it must be present even while you're sound asleep. And if it's unchanging, consciousness can't be born, nor can it die, so it must precede your birth and survive the death of your body. These are some of the fundamental teachings of Vedanta based on the wisdom of the rishis who discovered consciousness to be the inner divinity, the true self, Atma. Students in my meditation workshops sometimes ask, how can I meditate on Atma? Based on everything we've just discussed, you might have figured out that it's totally impossible. Why? Because Atma is the conscious observer, the awareful witness of your mind's activities. Atma is not an object that can be observed, like your thoughts, emotions, and sensations. So, Atma itself can never be an alambana, an object of meditation, because Atma is not an object. It's the awareful subject. It's you, your essential nature. Yet, even though you can't meditate on Atma, there are several meditation techniques that can help you appreciate its extraordinary nature. One of those techniques was taught by Ramana Maharshi, a famous 20th century teacher of Vedanta who was widely revered as a great Hindu mystic. He taught a simple but profound technique for discovering the true nature of consciousness. He instructed his followers to inquire, "Who am I?" during their practice of meditation. He taught that the sense of I-ness, the ego or ahankara, can be traced back to its origin during meditation, and that origin is pure consciousness, Atma. The next exercise draws upon Ramana's method. In this exercise, you'll start by observing all your vrittis, all the thoughts, emotions, and sensations that arise in your mind, like you did before in the exercise on Sakshi Bhava. Then you'll perform a contemplation in which you seek out the very source from which those vrittis arise. That source, of course, is your own consciousness, Atma. In this contemplation, you can metaphorically meditate on the meditator by understanding and appreciating your true nature. Because this exercise begins with the Sakshi Bhava technique taught before, if you don't remember that technique, it would be best to review that lesson before continuing here. You can find a link in the video description below. For this exercise, it's best if you sit in a place that's suitable for meditation. You can listen to this exercise using a laptop computer, a tablet, or a mobile device like your phone. This exercise is also available as a podcast or download from our website using the links below. I hope you are now seated comfortably in a suitable place. This exercise will take about 10 to 15 minutes. First, sit with a proper posture, as we discussed before. Close your eyes gently and take a deep breath to get settled down. Now, make a sankalpa to affirm your intention and commitment to meditate. Acknowledge the fact that you have many unfulfilled responsibilities and issues that need to be addressed. Since you don't want to be distracted by those things during this meditation, you can give yourself permission to set all those concerns aside just for the next 10 to 15 minutes. Now, instead of the progressive relaxation exercise, we'll begin with a body scan, in which you simply observe sensations from each part of your body, one part at a time. Start by turning your attention to your feet and becoming aware of sensations there. Notice the sense of pressure as your feet press down. Notice the touch of your clothing and feelings of warmth or coolness. Next, turn your attention to your ankles and calves. Notice sensations of pressure, the touch of your clothing, warmth or coolness. Now, turn to your knees and thighs. Notice the weight of your hands or arms where they rest, and any other sensations. Now, turn to the trunk of your body. Feel the weight of your body pressing down. Feel the firmness of the seat beneath you. Next, turn to your lower back and stomach together. Become aware of sensations. Now, turn to your upper back and chest. Become aware of sensations. Now, your right arm, starting with the upper part, then your forearm, wrist, hand, thumb, index finger, middle finger, ring finger, and little finger. Now your left arm, the upper part, forearm, wrist, hand, thumb, index finger, middle finger, ring finger, and little finger. Finally, your shoulders, your face, and your head. Now, in the next part of this exercise, imagine yourself standing outside the room of your mind, observing its contents, as though from a distance, like we did in the exercise on Sakshi Bhava. Witness all the thoughts, emotions and sensations that arise in your mind, without making any mental comments or judgments about them. Just observe them, silently, passively. Continue to imagine yourself standing outside the room of your mind, observing its contents from a distance. Witness all the thoughts, emotions, and sensations that arise in your mind, without making any mental comments or judgments about them. Just observe, silently, passively. For one more minute, continue to imagine yourself standing outside the room of your mind, observing its contents from a distance. Witness all the thoughts, emotions, and sensations that arise in your mind, without making any mental comments or judgments about them. Just observe, silently, passively. Now, in the next part of this exercise, continue to witness all the vrittis that arise in your mind as you reflect on a number of important questions. First of all, from where do all your thoughts, emotions, and sensations arise? Where do they come from? What is their source, their origin? Reflect on these questions for a minute or so. Now, continue to witness all the vrittis that arise in your mind as you reflect on the next question. Who is it that is observing the thoughts, emotions, and sensations in your mind right now? Who is the awareful witness? Who is the conscious observer? Reflect on these questions for a minute or so. Now, in the final part of this exercise, continue to witness all the vrittis that arise in your mind as you reflect on these questions. What is the nature of the consciousness by which all your thoughts, emotions, and sensations are known? Does that consciousness ever come or go? Does it start or stop? Does it grow stronger or weaker? Does it change in any way whatsoever? Reflect on these questions for a minute or so. Now, as we conclude this exercise, stop observing your mind and just listen to these closing remarks. You can practice this technique whenever you want, listening to this exercise again or without it. In the next lesson, we'll discuss the practice of Vedantic contemplation.